Earlier today, I contacted our local county mine inspector, and chatting a little bit on Facebook, he offered to take me into the KEEL Ridge Mine to look at it, take a look at what he's done, what he's doing to keep area mines safe, and give us a little history about that mine. I think a lot of people hear the name Iron Mountain, Michigan, and they just think of it as a city. They don't really think where that name really came from. Now, I know through learning my history lessons of this area, of the multiple mines, many deaths of miners locally here. And the KEEL Ridge Mine is one of those mines where there are actually men still buried underground. Now, that's what I've always been told. Steve Smith is an expert in this field. He knows a lot of details, and I'm sure I don't know. So we'll find out. Is it really true? Are these men actually still buried down there? So anyway, we are going to an undisclosed location. Many people agree that it's not very hard to find the location of anything using the internet these days. So you're going to have to find it on your own. I'm not going to do it for you. Just so you know, entering one of these mines is a felony. Don't do it. Watch my videos. Learn what you can from me. Ask me questions or people I know. But don't risk going into these things alone. You're risking yourself death, injuries, harm, and possibly jail if you get caught. So don't do it.
Hello.
Hey, buddy.
What's going on, man?
What's happening?
Same old crap, different day.
Right?
Every day there's a mine.
There.
Oh yeah, that's a little adit. That
So,
used to go all the way into the pit, but unfortunately it collapsed too.
That's what we figured, actually. We looked at the angle and the degree that it went down and figured it had to have just gone into that pit where that was.
Yeah, that's all it did. Never went very far. There's an upper level in here, and we've got a bat cage on that.
And I am recording this, and I'll show you a copy of it before I post anything. So
well, a lot of this isn't going to be really technical or really, historical as far as the facts and stuff go. But when I first started coming out here, this fence was still in fairly good shape. But then they had all this logged about 15, 16 years ago, and the loggers really destroyed the fence on that side and this side.
We've seen that at multiple mines. They just
and the fence was really in poor condition at the point of, it was collapsing either way. So last year I was able to work with the state of Michigan to get some funding to put these gates up on the top that you saw. And then I was also able to get some funding from the Laborers Training Institute to come in here with the excavator and clear the entire fence line, because you couldn't see this. Like all the way down there.
That was so grown up you couldn't even see that from here.
You didn't know there was a fence there.
Oh my God.
It was so overgrown you couldn't see half of this. So I was able to save almost all the fence posts all the way around and clean it out with my excavator and then dozed it. So the plan is now probably within the next 6 weeks they're going to put a brand new fence in here. Not a cyclone, but 5 strands of barbed wire. It'll all be signed. All the posts that are missing will be replaced.
And we noticed the other day that there's only signage, 2 signs up on these trees going that way, and that's it.
Yeah, and that's because that's a different landowner. So this is the next step, is to try to get the landowners to clean this up right here and put a new fence up. Just the fact that they're going to do all of this, though, is costing thousands of dollars. It's taken 5 years steady to get it to this point where they'll actually do it. So, I mean, it's just an awesome adventure, and that's why I'm trying. I got a lot of things in the works that people don't know about, and I don't want interference to ruin it.
I've done a little history on you already.
Well,
I found your website.
Oh my!
And then I read the Bat Cave thing, and I had no idea who you are, sir.
Oh, yeah, I've been
seriously.
Doing this for a while.
The story of the early 70s when you and somebody else climbed into the Bat Cave before it was a Bat Cave.
Oh, it was nothing. I bought a manila hemp rope. I worked at Modern Laundry then. That would have been like 73.
Yeah, I think that's
a whole week's paycheck to buy a 1/2-inch manila hemp rope, and I tied it onto like one of those fence posts. Threw it down, and we went down hand over hand.
How old were you?
17 maybe.
See,
16,
I'm in my 40s now, but I feel like a teenager sometimes when I do
60s.
some of it. So, right.
And I still do it. I mean, I've been doing it my entire life. But anyhow, this is a limestone cap, and we should have walked in there. Is that where you went? Down into there's just a little crawlway that goes in there. It's got a flat sandstone.
Cool, yeah.
Oh yeah,
piece of granite or quartz in the back of it.
I'm gonna leave it there because there's no point in doing it.
No,
it's safe. It's stable.
Like I told you, I'm not crazy enough to crawl in any place unless it looks solid. And obviously, if no helmet's going to help your head if 100, you know.
Yeah, if a slab falls, you're done.
You're done either way.
That's the bad part about going down.
So we accidentally came across this one, and I was like, my God, was that open for all that time?
Yeah.
Just a hole in the middle of the woods.
Well, and that was an 85-foot shaft, about 8 feet in diameter up there.
Holy mackerel.
I got beautiful pictures of that. So I dug that up. I left the fence there. I sat outside there with my excavator and baled hundreds and hundreds of yards of rock down into it and filled that. That was wide open. So there's still,
crazy.
You know, there was a lot of things open when I became the mine inspector. There was a lot more when I was a kid, but they started filling stuff up. But
so you're one of those kids, probably like I was, that wanted to explore, and you did explore, and then
I went everywhere.
Then I realized, especially with the Bat Cave, when they went to seal it up in the 90s.
Well, the only reason I got saved is because I had been going in mines my whole life.
Right.
And knew what was in there.
This sucker.
Yeah, so this one, I was up here, when I started this project, you couldn't see any of this. It was so overgrown. There was trees right up to the very edge of this, the same with all these.
Right.
There's another one right there. I buried that. That only went down about 35 feet. It went further, but it had collapsed, so that's buried solid. I mean, every one of these, when I fill them, I scratch or I rappel down them and
just to make sure there's no false ends. Yeah.
Well,
false
this
spots.
one, I didn't know it, but I came back out here after I had found it, and there was a tree right here. I tied a rope on it and went down it, and I found 600 feet of tunnels under here. So this goes all over underground.
Nice.
Here, and it comes out over there.
So that's why we caged it for the bats.
This was caged so that we could keep it for the bats. Otherwise, I would have filled it solid.
Yeah.
But this way, you know, and I got pictures of us going down in here this winter. We took pictures of it and documented the whole thing. Way down and goes out on the water. Did you see this?
Well,
we'll take a walk over there. This one is going to be included in the fence. So the reason we did this, the way we did it, is the fence used to go up there. There's a remaining fence post. And it used to go all the way around the outside. Now the fence is going to be cut.
Back here and
back to this side. And it'll go right up there and tie into them. We'll exclude this because there's no reason to fence this anymore.
It's kind of like the Bat Cave. You can't get into it.
Well, that's the plan.
Yeah.
Hopefully no one will ever damage
Technically, you probably shouldn't be back here on this property from what I'm understanding.
It's all trespassing. Yeah. I mean, if you don't have permission to be in here, if you get caught, they can go after you. But anyhow.
And a little fact my YouTube friends and Facebook friends probably know about is that's how me and Steve first met.
Oh, yeah.
Because I went into the Pewabic pit area illegally, and
your intentions were good to show what what the issue was. But
we didn't even see this the other day, and I'm glad we didn't because
this one goes all the way down to the bottom, and then you can walk right out into the water.
Oh wow!
This used to go down into the shaft, but when it collapsed, it filled the bottom of this in.
That's pretty cool.
And on this side over here, did you see the Bat Cave down here?
Yeah, I was like, well, that's awesome because we know about the bat issue up here and the disease and sickness going around. And
well, you should have went to my last power plant. It was pretty informative on the white nose and how bad it is. If you ever get a chance, you should go to one.
I definitely want to. I definitely want to.
There's pictures of them that
I
put on Facebook. But, although I do put a lot of stuff on Facebook. So anyhow, this will all be fenced all the way along the edge of that pit. And like I said, there was another one here. We buried this.
Right.
And that's filled to the bottom, and that 85-footer back up there is filled to the bottom. So we're going to exclude that from the fencing. And it just, you know, it makes it more economical for them to do it, and there's no point in fencing in these areas. Now that shaft right there extends over to here.
Huh. I
found this by mistake, or accident I should say, not by mistake. walking through the woods. If you happen to fall down in there, you're not coming out of it.
That one falls, that's a...
Drops down about 40 feet. It's just a crevasse all the way to the bottom.
That's a natural crevasse or something that they would have mined out?
Well, it looks like they started coming up on a small stope, and then eventually a fissure just opened up all the way to the surface. But then it keeps extending over to here a little ways, and then it ends. But it's all solid rock. I mean, the limestone's solid, the sandstone's solid, so it's not going to go anywhere.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't even see that the other day.
Oh, you didn't?
When we weren't here.
Well, when I was underground and I drew my map, I thought that hole was this. Until I dug that out, and it was like, oh crap, that's not it. And so at that time, you couldn't see the ground because it was briars like that.
Right.
So as I was walking, I almost stumbled into that. I mean, I very slowly, because I knew it was around somewhere, and then I found it was like, oh, there it is. Not where I thought it was.
Man.
So the gate that was going to go on there was the same size as that big one that we saw. But when we discovered, or when I discovered this one was so small, then we put a half a gate on, and I used the other half up at Pewabic on the main shaft up there. And if you haven't been up there, that's a shaft.
That's the one I'd like you to take me to.
You see, this is a shaft right here.
Yeah, you can see it's all buried in...
Yeah, I dug all this, I took all this from down into here, big, huge chunks of sandstone, and buried it. I wasn't going to go in there with the excavator because this is all going to be fenced in, but this was fairly deep. This was another one that probably entered into the caved in area here. So I try to be thorough, you know, when I'm going through.
How did that rock get in the middle of the woods? That doesn't belong there. But
well, that's an erratic. That was left by the glacier. That's how these rocks, these giant rocks out in the middle of nowhere, those were all dropped by the glacier. When the glacier receded, that was, you know, one of the things that
we walked the ridge line up, and if you walk the ridge line up, there's an indentation in the very top of it, and there's an indentation that just goes down and just all the way,
there's test pits all the way here, because this extended over a half a mile that way, but it also went down into the main Keel Ridge working, which is what Bob had, you know, has taken out. There's a shaft, there's a huge shaft with water flowing out of it that feeds the ponds on the other side of the road. Non-stop. Beautiful spring water coming out of there forever. And then that shaft continued on, and it met up with one of the other Pewabic drifts is what the talk was. I can't prove it underground, and I can't prove it on the map, but that was the talk of it.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I mean, this ridge ran all the way from Pewabic to Millie, all the way to Pine Mountain, where the federal mine is. Non-stop, all the way from Loretto to Pine Mountain, almost to the jump.
The whole like the Menominee, what do they call it, the Menominee Iron Range.
Yeah, the Iron Range.
So is this where the main collapse was of the mine years and years ago, where the men actually perished?
This is another shaft right here, but this will be in the tank right in. And I don't know if it's actually a shaft, but it sure looks like it, but it's connected with this cave in here.
Right.
And this is all just part of it. When it went down...
I mean, if I could think of how big this stope was underground before this, because this one isn't a natural cave or tunnel that collapsed. This was probably a big stope underground that gave way, or like a kind of like a crevice area that you...
Yeah. It's really hard to say because the map doesn't break it down totally, and without having access underground, you really can't... You know, it's impossible to predict what it was. And they changed mines so fast that they never kept up on the maps. Like they would mine out a new area, and the engineers wouldn't go in there and map it, and then it would be lost. They wouldn't know that it was even done. Yeah, so anyhow, this was all so overgrown that you couldn't walk through here, literally. I mean, it was horrible. And right about, where was that at? It was so thick I can't even remember where it was. There was another shaft right here, I think. It might have been back there a little bit. Anyhow, there was a huge test pit. I mean, huge. The excavator, the dozer would have gone into it. My dozer would have just disappeared. Well, this is where the whole pit is now, and it extends all the way up. There's a little island right here that just protrudes out into the pit from that. From where that big trench is. Jeff, we go right in here, you can kind of...
I love all the colors in the rocks. That's what just...
Oh yeah, it's beautiful.
It's beautiful. I see the ice is finally melting off, and...
You see right there is where that shaft comes out from the top, drops out right there. And then on the other end, just right around that corner, of course, is where the back gate is. But all that up there is broken up limestone with a lot of iron in it and dirt, so that's all going to subside. But this abutment here is just solid rock.
Right.
But yeah, this is where that adit runs right through here. And this really is the only time you're ever going to be in here doing
this. I'm making this video, but on the other hand, I want everybody here to understand that he is the county mine inspector, and we are here legally. Anybody coming in here not legally, it's a felony. It's not just a simple, you get a ticket and go home. You get arrested.
And see, this is just part of the pit. I don't think that this is another shaft. As they dug these pits, they extended out from them, and so these little side tunnels and rooms would just start collapsing to the surface. Because this old mine was really close to the surface compared to the old stuff. It was only down a couple hundred feet when it collapsed.
Kind of like the Pewabic.
Well, the Pewabic was down 980 feet. Pewabic was way deep.
That was really that deep. I mean, yeah. I mean, between the top of the stope and the ground.
Well, the bottom of it was 980 feet. And what they did with Pewabic when they mined it, it's called a block caving method. So you would have to picture like a huge area the size of a football field, and they put a whole lattice work of tunnels under there.
Right.
From one end to the other, like 800, 900 feet. Then they cross-cut it, and then they left it. And over a course of a year, that entire roof came down, and it ground all of that lattice into fine ore. And then they mined out that crushed ore. It saved them all the problem of crushing it, and they skipped it up. Then they did another one, another layer, and then it settled and it crushed that. So I mean, that whole thing was settling all the time, smashing the rock. There was so much weight there, it was actually crushing. Pillars that were 10 by 10 were just being crushed. And then they would draw out that crushed ore. And so the whole thing just eventually made it up to the surface and collapsed. But yeah, those shafts, one was like 400, one was 700, and one was 900 feet deep.
Yeah, that's an amazing sight to see, and you know.
I like Pewabic.
This one and Devil's Icebox, I see they finally got a new owner again.
Yeah, he's doing some serious work on it.
That's one that that's one I've heard of. Geologically, if you want to see something, you can see stuff from somebody said you can find seashells if you look hard enough.
Well, Pewabic's way more interesting than that, but it's still pretty good. So last year when I was here with the excavator.
And this one you can't even see on Google Maps, so this, I don't know if this was new or what, but...
This entrance here?
Yeah.
No, this has been here forever. This has been here ever since that. This is very old. You can see there's still water pipe in there, and it's all collapsed with sand all the way across here.
Yeah.
But the railroad grade used to come through here and would continue all the way down to the Millie mine. And then there was 2 more grades up on top the hill, and they all converged down near the Millie mine. I mean, it was just an amazing situation. But I dug all this out and tried to save all this because at some point, I don't know what they're going to do with it, but I opened all this up so you could see the attic.
I mean, you know, you can see how the early time miners would have done something, and if they're a school, maybe they can teach them about early mining or techniques or...
Well, they're...
What made them dig right here rather than, you know...
You never know when this is going to come in, you know, like you said, useful for the school to use for something. So at least it's accessible now.
Right.
But it's interesting when you start working on this because not only do you find all the mine rock, you find like these piles of concrete. So you know there was some kind of a footing here where they probably had some kind of a hoist, and there used to be rails coming out of here.
Yep. And
the rails went over to there. And those 2 twin piles right there are because they had like a trestle system here where they dumped ore. And on the other side of that, there's another 2 foundations over there. One is a smokestack because they had the boiler house over there. And this is probably where they ran the steam in.
Okay.
Steam and
right there. Actually, there is a on the bottom. There is a big pipe, probably.
Oh yeah, there's a couple
that big underneath. But
one of them was probably water. One of them might have been steam, and this one may have been before air. I mean, they might have put air into it later, but you have to remember that when this was done, when this cave, they had abandoned the mine. They hauled all the equipment out. They were standing around on the surface, just like me and you, joking and talking, and they wrote it down when it collapsed. Only one guy got out of it. One guy scrambled out of it.
Was it 3, I think?
7.
7. See, now I've been wrong. I've I've always thought it was like 3 or 4.
No,
and,
there was, I think 7 guys went down. One guy, and their names were known, and the guy who survived told the story and all that stuff too. I've got it somewhere at home in my documents, but I don't remember it exactly. But so anyhow, that was, you know, before the turn of the century. Then they came and they remined this whole lode. So this is like just scratching the surface 200 or 300 feet down. The new mine is way below all that. Just because these guys are buried in here, they tunneled right under them and just kept on going. I mean, that was years later, though.
Right,
it was shut down for a while.
I mean, I've always talked about now with all the iron technology or mining technology, there's plenty of iron still here that if they really wanted it.
Well, it's underground, though. So they won't do it because the cost is
right. They
everything is strip mining now.
Yeah.
If it can't be done, you know, if it can't be done like above ground by removing the surface and getting at the ore, it has to be like a nickel mine up at the Eagle mine, where the ore is so valuable.
Or copper.
Well, copper is nothing.
Or gold. Let's talk about gold.
Gold would be good, but yeah, there is. Look at that! I left my chain here, and there it is, still here. Holy crapola!
How nice is that? There's also a, I don't know what that was from, but looks like something from the mine.
Definitely. Yeah, I'll bring that down and give it to John, because they'll want to put it in the display.
Yeah, we seen it and put it down here. I figure, well, whoever owns this actually, it's, you know, that's who it is, and I'm not. I don't come here to take stuff off, you know.
Well, the Laborers Training Institute owns this property. So they're planning on putting together, for this fencing here, they're going to put on a union training program, a fencing program. So they're going to have union laborers come from all over the place and work here putting all this fence up and restoring it. So it'll be, I can't wait. I mean, this project I've been...
I think that there's got to be some sort of future in cleaning up old mines and making them safe. So why not teach the guys what you need to do that?
Well, if we could get some jobs for them like that.
Yeah.
But the problem is most people don't have the money. You know, that's where we run into it. And the ones that do have the money, they're pretty responsible. But typically they're larger landowners like Keweenaw Land. They got money, so they take care of their stuff. I mean, this is just an ongoing project. This is only my 5th year beginning. And I'm pretty happy with what I've gotten done because, I mean, this sat forever, since I was a kid.
The reason I wanted to find this in the pond was because I heard kids used to come here and swim because it was crystal clear and you could see rocks and it was really cool. And
that pond was over there. That is called the Old Rock Quarry. Not much swimming ever went on in here.
I see.
Because of its location and because it was off limits.
Getting ready to sell off over here, it looks like.
Well,
clearing off land and...
No, that's actually been, most of that has been bought up, and now they're gonna, I think Baco is gonna continue to crush. They've stripped that surface. They're gonna start blasting this spring and open all that up. That's gonna be another, but anyhow, that rock quarry was right next to it. And that's where we used to swim. That was the best swimming hole. There was beautiful cliffs and...
Now you tell me
that.
that.
What can I tell you?
Now you tell me that for another adventure in the woods. No.
Yeah, I grew up back in the, in the 60s and 70s, and so that Trader's Mine was the other spot where we always went swimming.
I've heard that. I've never been out there yet either.
Trader's Mine is beautiful, but that's really off limits. Anyhow, I mean, this is just a little part of the Keel Ridge. I'll show you the map of the actual mine and how far it extended and stuff over and all that, but you can't video it, you can't take pictures of it or anything.
I won't.
It's all copyrighted, so they're really... And I don't want anybody, to... What me and you do is all legal right now, but if anybody else comes in here and I catch them, I'm going to make sure that they get prosecuted.
Right. And
I have to.
Like I said, that's how I met you in the first place. So.
I know.
And I have this fascination, and you know what? I got 7,000 people on Facebook that follow me. I got over 8,000 subscribers on YouTube.
Yeah.
And they all dig this sort of history about Upper Michigan.
Well, and there's so much of it, and we can access all of this legally with the graces of the owners, providing we do it properly and we don't do it clandestinely.
I've already screwed it over with a few of them. So
well, you have to be careful because you can burn that bridge.
Yep.
You're only in... You can burn and destroy real quick, and that's the whole thing. I talked to, the manager of this place. I told him we were going to come up here. We might do some videoing. We're going to walk around because at some point, I also am interested in putting a documentary because I got a lot of my life.
You got everything underground. You got all the video underground.
Well, I got underground,
people would love
but
to see.
I want to do above ground too. I want to put it all together. I've spent almost my entire life doing this. So,
I would love to see I talked with a pastor. I can't remember what her name is. Corey, yeah, and we've talked about you. She probably talked to you about it.
Well, about the memorial.
The memorial that
around, And I think the names
everybody
are available.
thinks it's a good idea, but everybody's like, you know, and it's kind of just hit a brick wall and
yeah, I know. Well, it takes a big
find
push.
somebody and
doing that's as hard as doing mine inspecting and trying to get things done
Right.
because of all the laws and all the people that don't want to spend money. And I mean, it's a fight.
So I went up to Mansfield and I seen the list and with the little plaque and they have, and I was like, why don't they have something like that? I mean, we have the mining museum and you can see it if you want to learn it, but there's
we
not
should have a memorial
general,
to all the guys
right,
that were killed.
exactly.
List them, you know, a big granite thing with names,
right,
the mine,
what
the
year,
date. I mean, all
the
that
information before it's lost.
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested in that.
Good. We'll talk more about that this year because Corey's. I haven't talked to her in a long time, but she was on my butt about that.
Yeah,
like,
I
let's
know.
do this.
She got married. She's really busy right now with her church. And
right.
It just goes on and on. Have you been up to the Barnes Hecker location up in Nagani?
I've heard of it.
Oh, that was horrible. You should Google Barnes Hecker mine disaster.
I recognize the name.
The book will gut you out what them guys went through dying. I mean, one guy survived. I mean, it's just incredible to read that story. But they got a memorial that's beautiful up there. And you were up there looking at gold mines, so you weren't very far away.
We went up to Ropes. We went up to visit Ropes.
Yeah, I've been all over the Ropes.
I didn't put it on there, but I had a half a dozen comments going, I know where you were. We've been up there.
There's tons of really cool galena chunks and the pyrites. And if you picked up any of the green rock, it's just filled with iron pyrites, little tiny pieces of it.
There was a bunch of rock, and there was a big rock, and there was a bunch of white, really white quartz broken up with another piece of rock. And I was like, well, somebody... I can tell what they did. They broke it.
Yeah.
And between the seam between the white quartz and the rock, there was that on that
there
one
could have
picture.
been. Well, there is gold up there,
right?
You know, and it's possible that what you had was gold, but 90% of it is just pyrite.
It's
and if it's
throw
gold,
on the bookshelf and.
Well, it is. Gold will just not crumble. Pyrites will break, and then eventually, when it's sitting there, even if it's beautiful gold, it'll get acid leaching out of it, and then pretty soon it'll turn white around the edges, and then it just kind of rots away because the Cannon mine in Iron River had the best massive pyrites I've ever seen.
My buddy talked about gold hunting and how it'd be cool if chances are you're never going to find it.
It's hard. I mean, I've panned.
You can't say it's right. You can't say it's not. It's here.
It's here, but there isn't much. If there was, there'd be a lot of gold mines. Literally.
Right.
I mean, there's some guys that have invested millions.
We just saw a mine report in Marquette. They just capped off 3 gold mines. They said gold mines.
I wonder where that was.
In Marquette County.
Well, probably the Michigan.
And my buddy was like, "Ooh, let's buy one of those.
Yeah.
Sell them for $1."
Well, some of them you can, but all them. I mean, if you get Danny Fountain's books, Michigan Gold.
Yep.
And then he's got another one, Michigan Silver and Gold. I can't remember. It's like part 2 or something.
Silver City Story.
Well, that's
fake,
all.
but yeah,
I've been through every mine in the Keweenaw, and I mean, if that existed, we would know about it by now. I'm telling you, there's some people that are way more serious than me and you out there right now.
Yeah.
But anyhow, that's
sweet.
Yeah. I'm just starting my mines for the year. I mean, what I do in the spring is I make a complete round of every mine in the county because this is the time of the year when all the grass and trees are down, and this is when collapses happen. This is when everything
all the snow
moves.
kind of moves.
Well, the ground is thawing, and all the rains are going to start right now, and this is the time of the year. This is when everything collapses, almost all the shafts.
I'm looking for another big collapse at Pewabic here soon enough. I don't know when it's going to happen on that west face, but
well, there was a good one yesterday. Or the
out
day
there?
before. Yeah, a big slab of rock and an icicle, about a 40-foot icicle fell and crashed. You could feel it when it hit, just...
Because I know there's, on that one side of it years ago, there was that little teeter, there's just like a rock just kind of teetering there, and I've heard of people jumping on top of it. I'm going, that's too much for me, no way.
Yeah.
But there's just, yeah.
Well, there was big collapses years ago. I mean, there was places that we used to walk and we used to run and jump across these chasms, like a 10-foot jump with a 100-foot drop, and the whole thing just tipped over and collapsed. So, I mean, that's gone. There's been a lot of changes.
Right. Thanks again, Steve Smith, for taking me in here legally.
You're welcome, Jason.
And
do it legally, stay safe, and...
Well, we'll be talking a lot this summer, because like I said, I'd love to document these and do it legally and let people see what the history of this area is, because you can't come in here legally and...
No, that's the thing. It's all private, or it's all owned by major companies, and it's all no trespassing.
Yeah.
There are no open mines.
We just managed to find our way in here, because I have a rule: if I see a sign, I won't go by it, just because. But I was like, hey, we made it in here without seeing anything. We're good to go. And
love that sound.
right. But Anyway, yeah, I appreciate it. So
yeah, no problem. Glad we could take the time to come up here. And this is, you know, this is what I have to do as a mine inspector. All these areas I have to frequent and make sure there's no changes, and then I stay on people and try and get them fenced.
Right.
And Pewabic is like the #1 trespassing site in the county. Every day.
I was
up there 2 days ago. I caught 3 kids.
Really?
On their way in. And instead, I talked them out of it, told them what would happen. I took them and showed them the shaft that I'd gave them. I took them to the Bat Cave. I went through the whole scenario with them, and they were like happy. So it's part of its education. You know,
right.
You got to feed people the proper food in order for them to grow.
Right.
And once I taught them that, no, there is no legal access to this. It's all private property.
I always tell you want to go to an awesome mine, go up to the Delaware mine.
Oh, the Delaware is
In fact,
fun.
I was just chatting with them today. They're having a big anniversary on July 5th. They're having a big people out there doing. They got the trains running and all the
no kidding.
all the cool stuff. But they're having a big celebration for their. I think it's 140 years or something like that. Or
I like the Delaware. I got lots of pictures under there.
Yeah.
And what's good about this is, you know, since I work as the county mine inspector, but I also work for the state of Michigan, contracting through Eastern Michigan University, I get to go in all of the mines in the UP. You know, it's not just Dickinson County. This is where I am the mine inspector, but I typically have authority, not because I'm the mine inspector in the county, but because I'm an employee of the state and we've got contracts. We go in all of the mines in Upper Michigan, all of them, Ontonagon, Keweenaw, Calumet, and Houghton County.
Nice.
So it's been it's been a lifelong project. 25 years now I've been doing bat research for the state.
I've always said if you don't like what you're doing, find something else. If you want to find a job you love, find something you love as a hobby and make it a job.
That's pretty much the way it is.
So,
and I love this. Going underground.
Seeing what you did with the Bat Cave in the 70s and going in there probably not when you weren't supposed to, but maybe they didn't have laws or regulations then.
Well, there was.
And then when they tried to close it off and you stopped that and had to gate it and save the bats for what they are. And
well, only because I had been going in there and understood how important bats were. And I had been a caver. I belonged to the National Speleological Society.
So you did it for a hobby and you loved the sport and everything else, and then you made it a profession as well. So
yeah, I just happened to be in the right spot at the right time to stop.
You go to work and smile every day. So
pretty much. Not every day, but some days.
All right. See you later, folks. Hey. Well, I hope you liked the video of the KEEL Ridge Mine with the Dickinson County Mine Inspector. Again, thank you, Steve Smith, for allowing me to go with you. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And share this video around. Make sure you watch my channel this summer because I guarantee you we're getting in a lot more mines. And thanks to my birds back there for a little background noise. Never get enough of that.